In our gospel today, at the end, we hear Jesus say, "Which of these three, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim?" He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." And Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." And I think that if there's a theme to the preaching of Pope Francis and his writings and homilies and messages that he's given since he began as Pope, it would be his call that he's made in several different places to go out to the margins to find the poor, to go out to the margins and to care for the people that we find there, much like the robber's victim in today's parable that Jesus talks about. And that line, "go out to the margins," has been playing in my head a lot, because I know that I don't typically do that, and that I need to be looking for more opportunities and more ways to do that, and I need to be intentional about it. And I wanted to just share a brief story about the margins from the seminary. I think I've shared before that on our one day a week, on Wednesdays, we would have an assignment where we were going out and doing a ministry position. And one of the years I was assigned to a nursing home in Tell City. And so every Wednesday, we would pack up with some friends and we would head to the nursing home to do obviously just visits and so forth, and maybe whatever the patients or the people who were there needed. And I remember thinking after a few weeks to myself, wow, I really hate this. And I did. I really dreaded going. And I think I had in my head, what working with the elderly and the people in those situations and being in a nursing home, I had in my head what this kind of ministry and being Christ's hands and so on and so forth, I had in my head an idea of what that was supposed to look like and how I was supposed to feel, and my experience was not matching up to my expectations, to the things that I thought I was going to, the ways that I thought I was going to feel when I started doing this ministry. And my visits didn't really seem to help anybody out. And far from having like the warm fuzzies that I thought I was going to have at the end of every day, when it was all over, I usually was very much looking forward to getting out of there. And the person whose fault that was mine. Dorothy Day, who is a great Catholic, she passed away in 1980, but was a great worker with the poor and a great Catholic woman. Cardinal Dolan is working right now and encouraging others to try and help her become a saint. And she worked in New York and other places. And she started this Catholic worker movement. And it was hugely successful, but she talked a lot about how young college kids or people who had just graduated or people who had these high ideals would come out and spend time working with her with the poor. And she said that a lot of times they'd usually stay for like a week and then they'd leave, because their expectations for what it was like to care for the poor, what it was like to be on the margins, what it was like to do that kind of ministry didn't match up with their actual experience. And so they got frustrated and they would often leave. Pope Francis is not saying go to the margins with your expectations. He's saying go, no matter what, and stay there. Don't just bail after a day because it's not working. And he's telling us, and Christ is encouraging us to go to the margins of society and to care for the vulnerable, because we have a lot to learn by going there. We oftentimes, I think I'm going to save the world, I'm going to feed people who are hungry, etc., etc. Christ's commandments to us are first and foremost because we have a lot to learn by going there, and we are the ones who need to have these experiences and to have our expectations smashed. Go to the margins, Pope Francis says. Care for the poor. Don't have expectations. Stay there. As human beings, I think we tend to be extremely arrogant, and we never think that we have a lot to learn. And we don't go to Mass because we think we know what we need to experience. And we don't experience that, so we think Mass must be wrong. We think we know how prayer is supposed to make us feel. So we try prayer for 10 minutes, and because it doesn't make us feel the way we know it's supposed to make us feel, we quit. And we think we know what working with the poor is supposed to feel like. So when we try it for 10 minutes and we don't feel like we think we should, we quit. And that's the great thing about God. He loves us so much, He tries to break us out of our little bubbles, our little worlds, and He commands us to go to church. He commands us to pray. He commands us to go and care for the poor on the margins of society. We are starting an initiative here at Annunciation. You may have heard of it, St. Vincent de Paul Society, that will be a vehicle for us to go to the margins and to learn how and to comfort each other and to strengthen one another in order to stay there and care for whatever it is that we find when we go. At our initial meetings that we've had so far, we've had good turnouts, but we're going to need a lot more help. And I think that this will truly be a way that miracles will take place in our community because of this work that we are getting ready to undertake. And we talked a few weeks ago about how the average parish has 7% of people who do 93% of the work. I'm interested to see if this attempt to go to the margins will be a parish activity that all the same people who get involved in everything else get involved with, or if, as Pope Francis is telling us, we'll all go to the margins together. Helping the poor has 0 excused absences. Jesus didn't say, help the poor unless you're busy. Jesus didn't say, help the poor unless you pay someone else to do it. Jesus didn't say, help the poor unless you try it and it doesn't meet your expectations. Jesus didn't say, help the poor unless you are in high school or college. The priest and the Levite in today's parable had what they thought were excused absences, so they went to the other side of the road and left the man for dead. Jesus condemned them. In helping the poor, there are no excused absences. We have a St. Vincent de Paul meeting this Tuesday evening, and the first training session is on Saturday, July 27th. Let us go to the margins together, all of us. Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, the one who treated him with mercy. Jesus said to him, go and do likewise.